what she was doing.
Good afternoon. We'll call to order the special meeting of the Apache Junction City Council. Appreciate everyone in attendance. Appreciate the council being able to come this early. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Mayor Coleman.
Present.
Vice Mayor Eck.
Here.
Councilmember Deeds.
Here.
Councilmember Insalacco.
Here.
Councilmember Severs.
Here.
Councilmember Sippel.
Present.
Councilmember Waldron.
Here.
All members present here before me, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 3, consideration of resolution number 07-08, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Apache Junction, Pinal County, Arizona, adopting a notice of intent to enter into a retail development tax incentive agreement for the Superstition Square downtown project with AJ Town Center LLC, and also selection of date, time, and location for adoption and approval of the development agreement. And I'll call on our city manager, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Honorable Mayor and City Council, on Monday evening, you directed us to return to you today with the real estate investor's proposal. You expressed interest in leaving the core of the proposal unchanged. That is, that the developer be reimbursed for the city's infrastructure and for the infrastructure that the developer, normally would have to provide. You did indicate interest in refining the agreement. You expressed interest in eliminating 2 phrases that could unduly expose taxpayers to litigation. You indicated that you did not favor a section of the proposal that would have, until 2031, resulted in the development over time of 2 sets of rules in the community, one for the real estate investors and one for the rest of the community. You wanted to make explicit that a future developer could not unilaterally compel the city to utilize powers of condemnation or eminent domain against a business or property owner. You expressed an interest in not providing to the real estate investors sales tax money that is dedicated for the improvement of the library, the Rodeo Grounds Event Center, and other community capital improvements. While there remains tremendous developer flexibility and market adaptability in the proposal, the Council expressed interest in having an agreement that would do what the real estate investors proposed that they would do. Specifically, that big box stay east of Idaho, as shown in their proposal, and that the big box on Idaho be oriented to the street, as shown in their proposal, and consistent with the conceptual design guidelines for the other 3 streets, as depicted in Exhibit G2, and that the Main Street Organization's Design Dictionary and Commercial Design Guidelines form the aesthetic foundation for the design standards that a future developer is to present to the City Council, and that the proposal for Main Street's pedestrian-oriented mixed use at a height of 4 to 5 stories be set forth in an agreement in a way that better helps that vision become a reality. You indicated you wanted the Community Facilities District language to be consistent with state law, and that the document receive the scrutiny of Bond Counsel. Because both the developer and the community will benefit from this investment in infrastructure, you offered that both should therefore share equally in the costs of any litigation to defend this infrastructure funding resource. And lastly, you suggested that you did not deem it appropriate to subsidize infrastructure for a business moving from one part of town to this project area. Your Honor, Joel and I, with Kathy's assistance, bring back to you this afternoon the real estate investor's proposal, unchanged in its fundamentals, but refined to reflect the interests you articulated Monday night. Staff did point out to me that the conceptual plan, that's Exhibit B2, does not appear to depict the focal point and the Don's Monument. Joel and I have not yet assessed what the proposal would do, if anything, to those structures. We will assess the issue before possible action on the proposal. With your approval, Your Honor, Joel will quickly highlight the places in the proposal where these changes and those of Bond Counsel have been made. We'd then be happy to address any questions or comments you might have for us.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council,
I provided you a copy of the changes in highlighted form, and we can go through them rather quickly.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call.
Directing your attention to page 5, under 1.10, minimum public improvements. This was changed to add pedestrian-oriented street, essentially with minimum of 4 stories. Going to page 6, that was a bond council change, which I'm not going to argue with. Going to page 7, 3.2, this is under design standards. You wanted to make sure that there was some kind of standards that would be applicable and would be applicable at the time that this is written. So we've incorporated the Apache Junction Main Street Program commercial design guidelines and the design dictionary. Also, four-sided architectural treatment is also mentioned in that paragraph. Dropping down to 3.4, this is the relocated business provision, where essentially council desires that if a business does relocate into the project area from a different location in the city, that they not be paid back for the public improvements adjacent to that piece of property. And we limited it to a business not less than 5,000 square feet of leasable or usable space. Going to page 8, let's see, 3.7, that's the Scott Ruby change. It's essentially consider the formation of rather than being compelled to form a district, because it's really up to the city council under 48-701. It's your discretion. Same with 3.8. And the next section is also Scott Ruby change. So that really, actually, I'm sorry, no, that's the big one. That's the eminent domain provision. So we struck out a bunch of lines and just basically said there's nothing that compels the city to use its power of eminent domain in this agreement. Another big one, page 9, 3.11 was completely stricken. That involved the material impair language on the use of building codes for the term of the agreement, or 10 years for actual building permit, building code provisions. Going to page 12. This particular paragraph talks about the use of big box, where it can go. The council's decision was pretty much to have it east of Idaho Road, and if it is done east of Idaho Road, the parking lot should be behind the actual building, so to the west of the building. And that is in this provision.
To the east of the building.
To the east of the building.
I'm sorry, to the
other
yes,
west.
going
East
north.
of the building.
Many of us
Correct.
refer to it.
North of the building. Are we talking about front being on,
The front is
Main?
going to be on the east. No, the front's going to be on Idaho.
west.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yes, if you're driving north on Idaho, you look to the right, the building will be fairly close to the
So
road.
it's going to be partial on the corner lot.
Yes. Okay, going to page 13, this was a 6.4, which may not be unreasonably withheld language. That was stricken in some other sections also. Page 14 has some minor changes, reference to the 3.11, which you completely struck out. Tax increment on page 15, 8.2. Basically what we did, we're saying if there's any administrative or judicial challenge to the tax increment, the party shall share the cost equally. I do believe that's what the council desired. Going to page 'Getting through all the exhibits. Page 58.
6-8?
58.
58.
Mr. Ruby made some changes to the public improvement sections, which we did not bring to your attention on Monday. Essentially, he said some of these things are illegal. Actually, he told me they were illegal, so I did have them stricken out and highlighted.
Thank you.
Okay, going to page 64. Mr. Ruby also looked at this exhibit and made significant changes. However, I don't think it really affected the actual deal points. These are more legal issues. Formatting or framing the actual payment amount definition, and that's what we did. I think we talked about whether taxes would be levied rather than collected. It'd be based on what's collected,
Exactly.
not levied. That is in here.
Yeah.
Also going to the CFD provision under A, a lot of things were stricken out because it was just a repeat of 48-701. Essentially, a CFD will be followed under statutory references. And going to page 66,
Well, he worked that over, didn't he?
essentially, these were also changes that Mr. Ruby thought were very needed because of the bond language, and it was not written the way it should have been the first time around. So Mr. Ruby has looked at this, and he's saying that this, with these changes, it would be legal.
Mr. Ruby's our bond counsel, right?
He is a bond counsel, but he's also city attorney in 5 different cities, so he is familiar with
Yeah.
other types of municipal issues. And that, going to page 70. The language that's highlighted talks about the public improvement fund, whether the 0.2% of the 2.2% sales tax should be used for the payment amount. And here it's being excluded. We're essentially saying the capital improvement fund 0.2% will not be used for the payment amount for public improvements.
Your Honor? Just a quick question, Joel. And I'm looking at it, and I may not be reading it, but does it talk about if we extend that it still won't be used? Because I just see 2010.
No, all this says is that it's due to sunset in 2010. If it gets extended, I think it still will not be allowed to be used under this provision.
Okay.
And if the council changes that rate?
If the council changes the rate, I don't think the 0.2%, I don't think the council, well, if they add on the rate, that could be part of the payment, but I don't think it would because it's whatever's paying the city capital improvement projects.
So that kind of covers it in case like for the CFP2, if we decided after the sunsets to go to 0.3%, I'm just throwing that out there, then they wouldn't be able to attach that. Because it's basically covered under the city capital improvement projects.
Well, this does talk about the 0.2%, so if you did increase it, it could be 1% of that. If it was 3%, could be used. So we can deal with that language a little harder.
Is there a way to
Even though it's
like
covered under capital improvement projects, because it's kind of the capital improvement projects, but 2%, so.
Just brainstorming, and maybe Kathy, Joel, and I could refine this further. What we might want to do is just say, figure out a way of referencing the base tax.
It's current and future.
This agreement runs till 2031. Many communities, for example, have developed a public safety revenue stream that's dedicated to public safety.
Can't we put in there?
That couldn't, 2031's a long ways away. Maybe what we could do is reference the base.
Yeah, can't we just
tax.
base it on the 0.2 or 2%
Yeah.
city sales tax?
Your Honor, why don't we
Good.
just scratch the 0.2%? Because then it will say, except for the portion of such tax which is specifically dedicated to pay for capital improvement projects,
We could do that.
no matter what the amount
No matter
is.
what the amount is.
We could do that. That would work.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't cover a provision if in 2025, council wanted to have, the community wanted a revenue stream dedicated to public safety operational issues. Different way, then would end up owing that public safety revenue stream to So maybe we can look at that language some more.
Because I'm
Yeah,
not
I-
sure this makes it real clear, it's current and future. This appears to me to lock it into 2010.
2010, okay.
That's why I think it should just be stated that they would receive the 2% city sales tax. Because if something else comes up 10 years from now, and we have another half-cent sales tax for public safety, or something of that nature, that's not defined in this, that would cover us.
Base tax only.
Say again, please?
The base,
Base tax
Base.
only.
the base,
Okay.
2% city sales tax.
Don't we have to do that language today before we adopt the
Yes.
resolution?
Yes.
It would be good to put that in the motion. Yes.
So that'd have to be included.
Yeah, in the motion, if it's in the motion, that could be dealt with.
Got that, Dave?
And that is pretty much it.
It's going to be harder than just saying the base 2%, because over $2,000, it drops to 1.2.
Well,
Do
just-
you have an idea, Kathy, how to express that?
I think it'd just be in the motion and we'll fix it. The motion will say,
My suggestion would be that these provisions exclude any current and future transaction privilege taxes collected, not just assessed, but collected for purposes of capital facilities or capital improvement projects. And I'm not sure how you'd want to.
But what if we did something for public safety or
I was going to say,
something
I'm not sure
else in the
the
future,
appropriate
you
words
know?
to address.
Maybe something along the lines that are specifically earmarked for other purposes above
The general sales tax.
the
Or
general
just
sales
something
tax.
that's based on,
Any new tax.
based on the regular sales tax collected.
Are we going to try and solve the language now, or just have sufficient language in
No.
the motion that tells us?
So that it, I think just direction to change this so that it's clear that it
Yes.
limits the incentive to those taxes collected excluding capital facilities projects, and I'm not sure what we want to call the other category.
We could put us that they are not eligible for any additional taxes implemented from today forward.
Over the city's base.
If we implement a
Sales
tax
tax
for
points.
this or that or whatever, they are not eligible.
They're not eligible for it, or they're not, well, how do you put,
It's
Okay.
from what we were agreeing upon today.
Okay, we
Anything
got the
beyond today.
concept. We don't have to flesh out the words, we've got the concept.
Okay.
Make that happen.
But we got to put it in the motion.
well, not the exact
Yeah, but
language.
not the specific wording.
Right.
Just that you will come up with the specific.
Right.
wording. Thank you very much.
That'll work.
Mr. Mayor, that is it for the agreement. I would like to say a few words of why, I think everybody understands why we're here, but I do want to say that we are here because of 9-500.11K, which requires the city or town which desires to enter into a retail development tax incentive agreement to adopt a notice of intent to enter into such agreement a minimum of 14 days before adoption of the agreement. So you're here, you're not really approving the language of the agreement, you're just here to comply with the statute, which is just a notice of intent to enter into an agreement. So I wanted to make that very clear so that everybody understands that.
we understand that, will the public understand? that
I
when
want the
they
public
read-
to understand that, yes.
Yeah, because we did this once before.
Yeah, with a different agreement, or different proposal.
So this is just a vote to enter, to start that 14-day clock.
That's correct, and you don't have to on the 15th day vote, you can wait a while if you want to, you just have to give 14 days
At least
notice.
14 days.
Right.
I say we do it as
But
soon as
at the end of
possible.
that, we should
we do
have
it on
the
the-
language that we're going to be voting on. I mean, that the next time we see this, it'll be what we're voting on, is that right?
Actually, correct, that is correct. What you're going to be doing is saying the language that you see tonight, with the exception of that one other, the sales tax issue, and that's going to be in here also starting tomorrow, because I'll put it in there. That will be the basis of what the public is going to see, saying, okay, this is what they're going to consider to adopt at a future date. Actually, you're going to pick the date tonight, I believe.
Could we maybe just take a couple minutes to go over the proposed motion? because there's some blanks in there and some things that tie into other parts of the motion. The very first paragraph of the motion is the adoption of the resolution, which includes the notice of intent and the lengthy document as an attachment. Your option there is to approve it or deny it. The next part is for you to set the date, time, and location for the meeting on the adoption. And like Joel said, it has to be at minimum 14 days. I believe the earliest would be
23rd.
February 23rd, okay?
So we do it on the 23rd.
The next portion, and again, these are just suggestions, is that you would direct the city attorney to send all of these documents, the resolution, the notice, and the attached agreement to the attorney for the Downtown LLC group, and that in turn, they be told of the date when you're going to convene again to look at the adoption, and request that all of their comments be sent in writing to the city attorney at least 5 days prior to whatever day you pick.
Cool.
Okay? And then the next section simply says, it restates the statute. The purpose of the statute is to keep the public informed and advised of what you are about to do. And then the last thing is, and this is your discretion, if you want to have your second meeting open to the public, yes or no.
Yes.
So that's your choice.
Your Honor,
Councilman.
I have some things I need to say. I am incredibly uncomfortable with this. I am uncomfortable with being here today. I am uncomfortable with the amount of pressure that we have received to be here today, to enter into a notice of intent, to enter into an agreement that we don't even know if we have. These people withdrew their offer, and we're acting as if they never did. And then they come back and say, well, that was just, I was angry and so I withdrew it. I don't like what is happening here today. To me, a letter of intent is that we intend to enter into something. And we were told, this is it. This is our final, our best offer. This is it. No changes to this thing will be accepted. And then we go and we have our question and answers and we explain to the community our concerns, and we finally let the truth out. Our side of the story we let out to our public. And we get done and somebody stops me and says, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? They've handed you a letter of intent to develop you a new downtown, and once they do this, you have all the control in the world. I don't feel that person was in the same meeting that we were in. We expressed that we do not have all the control, that we do not have any commitment to anything. They haven't committed to any time frame. They haven't committed to build one single building, to where it's going to go, to what it's going to look like, the percentage of residential to commercial. Not one thing have these people committed to, and then they go and tell us no changes. This is it. This is what we want. No changes. And then they send us a letter, we're backing out of the deal. A letter of intent to me is misleading right now, that we are intending to get into an agreement with these people. Have they even seen our changes yet? Is there any negotiations that can happen right now? They told us final best offer.
I guess we'll find out once we give them our agreement, and we'll see where it goes from there.
What does this agreement get us?
Your Honor, whenever I can, I'd love to get in on this.
Yeah.
I want to know
Let's go ahead and let Joe go ahead and finish.
what does this agreement get us? Does it get us a time frame? Does it get us one commitment of any construction whatsoever? Does this agreement tell us that they're ever going to put a shovel in the ground? It doesn't get us a developer. It doesn't get us a commitment, a guarantee, a promise. It gets us a plan. What it gets the investors is more value for their land. We are committing, tonight we are signing into an intent to agree on something that would be nothing more than a commitment of millions of dollars with nothing substantial in return in writing. We have a conceptual plan, a concept of what this might look at. To me, I look at this, I see a $40 million dream, a vision, an idea that we're committing to, and I'm not comfortable with this at all. I listened to a citizen today for an hour telling me how we are being forced by 35 people in our community, in our business group, to make a decision here for 35,000 people. This isn't right. Why do we have to rush into this? Why can't we have normal negotiations like normal development agreements? This is not one of them. This is not right.
Is that it, Councilman Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Your Honor, I don't disagree with a lot of what Council Member Severs has to say, because we know quality of value of property is what this is all about. We're not dealing with vertical developers. However, I feel that, you know, there was an email and then an email sent back, okay, maybe we're in it. If they agree with the 4 dozen or so changes we made in the contract, then I think we have a deal that's probably about as good a deal as we're going to be able to get. That's not the deal that they wanted. So we're gonna vote on something, but we're voting on something that we made revisions to that protect the city, I think, dramatically more. So I feel much more comfortable. I'd rather be with one person who's the developer of every vertical building, but that's not the case for this scenario. But we do have 40 changes here, revisions, that cover the city that weren't in the revisions of the business community. And quite honestly, I'm tired of it just kind of sitting at a standstill, nothing happening. So, okay, instead of saying we're hearing all the things they're saying, we disagree with them, then let's come to some type of an agreement that we feel is the best development agreement we can get for that area, and let's go with that. Do I think they're going to be happy with this development agreement? Probably not. Probably not, no way.
At what point?
But at least we're saying, yes, we do agree to this. And you can tell those 35 or 40 business people, we agreed to what we felt was the most responsible agreement for this community, for these citizens.
At what point in time do we stop negotiating? What if?
This is it. We're
This
on
is
the
it.
way.
Is this
We're
it?
finally there.
Is this it?
This is a yes or
We're not
no.
gonna go into
with these.
negotiations
Okay.
any longer.
Okay.
That's why we are
So
where we
this
are.
is it.
As
No
far
more.
as I'm concerned, we're finally gonna
And
get an
then-
answer of yes or no.
And then these people go to our business group and say, you know what?
We're gonna put up
If
with
they would
that.
take out this and this, we'd have an agreement. These people are ruining this because they want this and this.
You know, it depends on what this
What's
and this is.
gonna happen? So if they want 2 of these things that we just put in there taken out, are we gonna take them out?
Well, it depends on if it's,
I feel
whether you
this
have
is
to
our
plant a
final best offer.
Palo Verde tree instead of a mesquite tree is one of them. That might be do it.
That isn't something we put in there.
Okay, but I mean, if it's something that's not, you know, overbearing as far as dollars lost to the community, possibly.
So we're gonna enter into negotiations again.
I doubt it, Joe. I
No,
doubt
I
it's
don't
gonna
think
be
so. I
a
think
yes
this is
or a
it.
no.
This is it. They gave us their best and final offer.
And-
We took their best and final offer. We looked at it. We analyzed it. We saw some changes that we thought we needed to be changed. We changed them. We're giving it to them. This is it. If they take it, they take it. They don't, they don't. They sell the property and go bye-bye.
Okay.
They do. If they enter into an agreement, so be it.
Okay, if they enter into this agreement,
Yep.
then what? Then everything is fine and we're good. If
Then
they
we'll go
At least
say,
we have an agreement.
if they say no to this agreement, then what?
Then we wait and see what
And
happens.
see what goes from there.
They're not developers, we know, they're land barons, they own land. So,
So let them go to the business people. Let them go to the business people. You know, we have done what we feel is best for this community with this agreement.
We're finally moving forward
And
with
here
this
we are.
agreement.
Okay?
And here we are. If they go to the business community, they go to the business community. I mean, we've gone, and it's time to get this going and do what we're gonna do and be done with it.
So from now on, if they go to the business community and they come to us beating us up again, saying, you guys, you know, you're ruining this, you need to do this, you need to do that, are we gonna go and
Then we
change it
defend
again?
it to that individual the best we can, but the fact is we weren't gonna sign the life of the community away for a group, for one specific group in this community. We've come up with the best development agreement we can, and that was it. And you know what? Today I had one of those irate people from the 35 business people who finally told me, it was yesterday, who finally told me, gosh, I got to reading that development agreement. They were trying it, and I won't tell you the words he told me, but I was happy with the words he told me.
Thank you.
Because they were
This is
trying
being
to do it.
televised, isn't it? We don't-
Yes.
And
You're
I
ashamed to
said,
censor it.
I said, you know, that was the point all along, is we didn't feel like it was a two-way street. He got it. He was one of them who got it.
And that's
So,
what I want,
You
okay?
know,
I
it's
don't want
gonna be
us,
difficult to do. You're always gonna have, you know, the ones, I don't know how many of them read the entire thing in development, but
Not many.
I feel like we're moving forward. I don't see how
really
else we
feel
can
we
move
are,
forward.
yeah.
if we
What
sign
else
into
can we
this
do?
agreement,
But try to get the best items for our community in this agreement and try to say, this is what's best for our community, this is what's best. We want downtown to happen.
Yes,
Of course
we
we
do.
want downtown to happen.
Your Honor?
Everybody does.
Your Honor,
Councilman Waldron?
I'd like to remind the council that this is only the first part of a three-step process. This starts the 14 days, then we have to either approve or reject the agreement, and then they have to sign it. So to me, this argument's a little bit premature because we're not even looking at the agreement yet. This is the notice of intent. This is 14 days.
I just thought that,
No, after 14 days, you're saying they can revise this?
No, what I'm
Then this
saying
is it. There's
what I'm-
no difference.
What I'm saying, Ari, is that we have to come back and either accept or reject it. We haven't even done that yet,
Okay.
so we still got some more steps to go.
But this isn't going to be revised except a couple of things we discussed, so I would,
I'm just thinking that we're wasting the time now. We do this intent, which is another 2 weeks, and we don't even know if they will consider
Well,
one
that's a
item that we
chance we
come
have
up
to
with.
take.
We don't even know.
that's a chance.
I
we
think
have
that
to
we're
take.
doing it a little bit backwards here, that we should have went to these people and said, here are our changes, what do you think? And if they say absolutely not, then why are we here today?
I thought that's what we were doing.
That's what we're doing, but we're doing it legally. We're doing it the way it's supposed to be done.
If I could take the floor back, I have just a couple of questions. Joel, on page 11, we removed language that compelled the city to create the districts on request, the CFD and the enhanced maintenance of public improvements. In 4.7, 4.8? Is it in both of those? In 4.8, we still have language dealing with those two entities, the CFD and the EMSD. Should there be language included under that provision which says if created by the council, or if?
No, I think other provisions would cover it. These are just options. You can create a CFD, or you can just create a public improvement district, which would be the EMSD district. I think it's covered under other provisions. There's
Okay.
you don't have to create them.
So if they're
unless you
not
want.
created, then that doesn't,
Correct.
okay. The other thing is under 4.1 on the zoning of the property, and 4.2, development of the property. It says developer agrees that development of the property should be in accordance with the CCD zoning designation, general plan, the redevelopment area plan, the conceptual master development plan, the downtown center design standards, and the downtown center public improvement standards approved by the city, and further acknowledges that no PDPs shall be submitted to or approved by the city until the downtown center design standards and the downtown center public improvement standards are submitted to and approved by the city. That does give us some control there, does it not?
Yes, they have to
As far as-
submit and have them approved. That's
Okay.
correct.
And in this development, the development along the main street does have to be 4 stories.
That's the new language, correct.
Okay, can I ask you another question? And I can't remember where we put it in, but we said that any buildings 50,000 square foot or more would be on the east side of Idaho.
That's under the big box provision.
Where's that at?
That is on page, page 12.
Page 12?
Yes, at the top.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned a little bit. I'm not sure that I intended, at least in my way of thinking, that everything 50,000 square feet or over be located east of Idaho. For example,
I was gonna say that, yeah.
if they wanted to build a movie theater over by the
Superstition.
other end of the main street, so that you'd have, you know, a huge anchor on the east side of Idaho, and then a movie theater on,
Like where the Grand may be, or
Yeah.
something of that nature.
I knew, I'm sorry, Mayor, but I knew what the mayor was getting at when he originally said that is, I thought he wasn't necessarily against big box over on that side. However, if they wanted to bring big box in over on the west side, if it's appropriate, Harkins Theater, yeah, even maybe it's Superstition and Plaza, or Phelps, but at Plaza.
I'm cheering for Cinemark, but
Yeah.
So we can say except for theaters? Is that what-
No, appropriate.
I guess it would just,
Appropriate, I don't know how we would add that, but we could have something,
maybe it should, I don't know I don't know how big a regular 10-plex theater is, I mean, square footage wise.
I'm not sure. I did get the 50,000 square feet figure from our new planning manager, and we talked about big boxes and what's typical, and he said anything that's 50,000 is considered big box or major retail development.
Your Honor,
And the reason I asked that, like, the Walmart's 120,000 square feet,
The Walmart's 220.
220.
220,
200, yeah.
Our
220.
Lowe's,
there a
the
way-
Lowe's I work at is 200, 210.
So it's over 50,000. That's what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
So maybe this could be enlarged a little bit so that they
Sure.
could put something.
100,000.
well,
I don't-
well,
like I said, like,
no, but even if the appropriate business came on the other side, it might be 80,000 square feet, it might be 190,000 square feet. It could be our center. We don't know that,
Your Honor,
being that we're
Isn't-
not dealing with the vertical developer. So I'm concerned that we don't stop a possible, catalyst, awesome business from going on that side, just because we said we will allow big box on the east side of Idaho.
isn't the intent here that they have by right the ability to put big box on the east side? It doesn't prohibit it. It doesn't prohibit them from coming to you and saying to you through the zoning process, we'd like to do A, B, or C on the west side of Idaho. It simply means that now you're going to have a mutual dialogue about it instead of a categorical right to do it unilaterally.
That
I think
sounds-
what's in the agreement gives you the right that if it's going to go west of Idaho, they come in and the council and the citizens have the mutual ability to have that discussion instead of them just saying, it's in the zoning, this is what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, because in the,
And then the council has no ability to say, well, but we're a little bit concerned that we're not getting the pedestrian-oriented mixed use.
So it allows us the ability to negotiate
have a dialogue with them,
Yeah,
a two-party
on-
dialogue instead of a unilateral direction.
Concerned just because we allowed big box east of might have stopped it, something else appropriate from going anywhere in the whatever, 100+ acres, you know.
You know, just if, because right now it reads, notwithstanding anything to the contrary in this agreement, all major retail development, also known as a big box with 50,000 square feet or more of leasable usable space, shall only be located east of Idaho Road.
Yeah.
And
That locks it.
if we could entitle that, and then add language that said, except as approved by the city council.
Yeah,
or-
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
also may want to make sure that the 50,000 square feet, I think what you mean is that it be under one roof? That you don't mean if there's two 25,000?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, unless it's approved by the city council.
I'd say
Depends on what it
except
is.
as approved by city council will cover it.
Your Honor,
Councilman?
this is exactly what I was getting at. We're not even sure about this thing yet, and because we're being rushed, we're getting ready to enter into a intent to approve something that we're not even sure on yet, because we're being rushed.
I agree with you, yes and no. We're being rushed by a group of business folks that think this thing's gonna happen, or we're just gonna lose it all. The other part is being rushed. We've had it how long now? I feel like we've drug it on. Well, not we, but it has drug it
You know,
on.
I was going to say, with the business owners group, I don't know that I would have the understanding that I have had I not been on for the full ride over the past 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean, rushed.
You know, and if you had handed me this 10 days ago and said, what do you think about this? I might have stood up and said, you know, gee, those are awful pretty pictures. I really like them. You guys should approve it.
You still say that. I'm teasing. Days I know.
But, you know, and so I understand that there's different levels of understanding out there, and that's okay. But I think what we have generally reflects the concerns that we voiced Monday night. And I think it's a place
To start.
to, yeah.
I think we have
To
something
get
that the
started.
business community will look at, and part of them will say, well, okay, you did what you needed. Others who own property in this area who could benefit 100 times over, like, no, it's not enough because it's just not giving them an open, wide door. But I think we have something that I can go to the 37,000 citizens and feel comfortable saying, I try to act in your best interest. We did. Try to act in your best interest. And that's personally what I feel.
Other comments? Other questions?
Your Honor, just, again, the motions are just suggestions, but by having their legal counsel put the comments in writing and direct them to the city attorney, that would suggest that any of the outside comments you might get don't fit within that motion, if you're approached out in the community.
Your Honor,
Councilman?
do a motion?
Okay, let me ask you a question
Okay.
first. How much of what we said, like the additional language that I suggested about the 50,000 square foot thing and the, what was
The tax.
The
the
tax.
tax? We need to include those in the motion.
I got it.
Okay,
Please
Councilman.
reference the pages, and it's on page 12 for the,
And 70.
and page 70.
Before Dave's motion, can I ask you one quick question, and that is, Joel and George, we were told by somebody, a professional development attorney, there's 3 things you gotta look for. Are we not accomplishing those 3 things in this contract?
Well, you're not getting guaranteed square footage, you're not getting a performance schedule of when anything's going to be built,
And when?
or when. So you are not getting that. You are getting a schedule for essentially a plan.
Right.
That's Exhibit C, I believe.
Will those be developed at some time?
Well, what be developed?
We don't know.
We have no idea.
Well, they
Schedule of performance and,
they have to
Yeah, but we're not
do construction documents
We're
within
not
30 months.
giving, though, my point is, we're not giving anything, though, unless they do that
Correct.
development.
Yes.
So
Nothing's been, yeah.
who's going to want to sit on this property, I guess, is what my point was.
They're not
I
just
thought
going
we
to
were
get,
covering that by,
well, they're
because of
not,
that.
they're not going to just get $20 million. They have to actually do something.
That's where I thought we were,
They're gonna get
Covering
reimbursed for what they do.
those questions.
They have to build public improvements in the Main Street area, which has to be accepted by the city, and they have to submit a PDP Phase 1 plan for the Main Street road. And also one that includes 100,000 square feet of some kind of mixed-use development, retail. And if they don't do those things, they don't get paid. Those are preconditions.
They don't get paid, but we have committed the money to them, which means we cannot use that money for anybody or anything else. What if they decide, they turn in their documents, and they decide we're going to build this on year 20? What if that money's been committed, tied up, not available for 20 years?
The tax increment money, or the value of that tax increment.
That's right, because we have nothing. The developmental agreement specialist attorney said you have to know what you're going to get, when you're going to get it, who's going to build it. And we have none of it.
They're not gonna let this thing go out for years with what's happening south of the city. That's,
They have-
you know, it's in their best interest, and they know it,
Okay.
that they have got to get out there and get this thing going and get it established before that goes.
George, is this limited to the life of the TIF?
Is the agreement limited to the life of the TIF?
Right.
No, sir.
I thought it was at one point.
No, I think it runs 2 years beyond.
Yeah, 2031.
Oh,
It does
2
go
years beyond the,
And I
Anything's-
think that the intent was that there might be a cash flow lag on when the monies actually get submitted and run through the process and so forth. And so I think that's why they proposed that it run beyond the TIF. Now, there's a whole bunch of things in here that don't go to the money that would, the agreement would still apply, but
And if something's committed before the 2029 date, then the city would have to pay back the public improvements that are even done after that time. But as long as it's committed before the 2029.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for delaying your development. I'd do a call to order if necessary, but
I had one more comment, Your Honor, please.
okay.
This agreement binds them to giving us a phase plan. Phase 1 will be this, within a year and a half from now. A year and a half from now, they have to tell us, here's a plan for something that'll happen someday. And in 30 months, 2.5 years, they have to give us construction documents that says, here's how something someday will be built. 2.5 years. When are they going to start building south of the freeway? When? Could it happen in 2 years from now?
That's just a timeline. I'm sure
So why
that
isn't
they
that
would want
timeline?
to be on top of this and get it going
They're-
before anything goes south of the freeway.
Then
They
why-
want to get it
why would they put
downtown
it in?
established before that happens.
They want to sell their land. That's it. They do not want to get anything going before the land. They want to sell their land before that happens.
Well, I think they do because, because the vertical development is what's going to increase the TIF. The longer they wait for that to happen, the more TIF money that they lose.
They lose.
And
there's
so
a
I,
huge financial incentive.
There is
for
a
them
huge
in
finan-
the underlying structure of this, for what you just said. The more they build, the sooner the builder, the more value they create,
Right.
the more
The more
over the
TIF
term
they
of
get.
this agreement that ultimately they can put in their pocket.
And I'm-
That's absolutely
Exactly.
correct.
and I might mention that I share some of the concerns that Councilman Severs has. in that we don't know. I mean, we don't know, and it's a very unusual model.
Risk.
In fact, we may be creating the
Usually,
model, I
it's the
think,
first one ever.
Ever.
but it is unusual circumstances, I think, too, as far as the downtown opportunity that we have right here goes.
No one in the
I-
state has had to deal with this issue, except the president.
So,
Well, but TIF is simply the funding vehicle.
Right.
right.
Sales, dozens and dozens of these have been done around the state using another vehicle.
Yeah, but straight up
We
tip.
talk about the downtown, but probably two-thirds of this agreement, if you look at it visually, and we don't know what will be built, but two-thirds of it's multifamily or big box in the plan you have in front of you.
George, what you're saying in most cases is 100% correct. You know, this is a huge dollar incentive for them to develop the vertical development, to create tax, to get their money back, if they were the developer. They're not. This is a huge dollar incentive for the real estate investors, for us to commit millions of dollars to them so they can sell their land.
But it's going to be in the
Done
same
with it.
best interest of whoever purchases this property to get it built
It
as soon as
doesn't-
possible. So
yeah, I was
they
gonna say, it
can
doesn't
get the
matter who it
incentive
is.
Also.
Then let's deal with the people who should be getting the incentive.
Well, this is the first step.
It is. This is the first step, Joe. They're gonna
This
take
is the
our
first step.
agreement, we're dealing with them, or they're not gonna accept it, and we're not gonna be dealing with them. We're going, I think, in finally a positive direction in that manner.
And what happens, who are we dealing with if we're not dealing with them? Who are we dealing with? We're dealing with somebody who spends maybe $20 million to buy some land. Two things could happen here. These people are going to come to us and go, I'm thinking about buying a piece of land in this downtown center, but I heard you guys are terrible to deal with. I heard that you can't get anything past you guys. So
Let's know.
I know. So what can I do here? Two things are going to happen. They're going to come to us and say, I'm thinking about buying land. What can we do? And our development services and our staff is going to go, you know what? You buy this land, and we're going to give you tax money, tax increment financing to pay back every penny that you spend on infrastructure. What do you want to build? And they're going to go, well, I want to build this theater and this restaurant and this and this. We're going to go, you know what? We'd love that. Please do it. Here's anything you want. They're going to go back, and they're going to tell this investor, you're crazy. These people are great to work with. I told them what I wanted to build, and they're going to give me everything there is. And then they're going to go and tell all their developer friends the same thing. And that land is going to sell, and the people who don't have $60 or $70 million to be spending every month on interest, they're going to come to us and go, I want to build this. I want to build this. How can I do it? And you know what? We're going to say, we want buildings on the ground in 2 years, and we'll give you all this. And they're going to go, great. 2 years, we could have construction instead of 2.5 years to have a plan for something someday.
Do you realize we could very likely end up with that? We're gotta complete with the current landowners now first. Hopefully something happens there. If not, then we're probably gonna end up on your second part.
This has to happen first before we do anything, whether we like it or not.
But could you explain TIF to me one more time? I'm just kidding.
Turn his microphone off.
Yeah.
It's a tough subject. It is,
I appreciate all the comments, the concerns, and appreciate you getting them out on the table. And I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor.
Councilman Waldron.
I move that resolution number 07-08, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Pinal County, Arizona, adopting a notice of intent to enter into a retail development tax incentive agreement for the Superstition Square downtown project with AJ Center Downtown LLC be approved with the following amendments. On page 12, Article 5, Section 5-1, we insert the language, except as approved by the city council. And under Exhibit F, Section 6A and 6B, the language be inserted that protects any taxes over and above the base tax rate for a specific purpose. I further move that we meet for the purpose of adopting the development agreement on February 23, 2007 at 4 p.m. in the city council chambers, and
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that date.
What was that date?
23rd,
23rd.
February 23rd,
At what time?
4 o'clock.
What, that's a Thursday.
And that we direct the city attorney to send the resolution, notice of intent, and copy of the agreement to legal counsel for AJ Town Center LLC, advising them of the date scheduled for adoption of the agreement, and requesting that all comments be sent in writing to the city attorney at least 5 days prior to the adoption date. And since the objective of the state statute is for the public to be informed and understand what is being considered by the council, we direct that this agreement come back unchanged, and that the meeting for adoption of this agreement allow for public comment.
Second.
The only issue is I can't make that meeting that day.
Can we do a speakerphone? At least do we have it up right now?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I do want to remind the council that on the day that this agreement is voted on, there needs to be a 2/3 vote. That means 5 out of 7.
How about, will you be back on Monday? The
Oh,
26th?
yeah, yeah, it's just that day.
So the 26th?
Is it that poker game?
I was teasing.
Okay.
The 26th is fine, it's just that one particular day.
Does that work for everybody?
26 is fine.
I'll amend the motion to February 26th, 2007 at 4 p.m.
Had staff be diligent in reminding council of that time and date.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Zlako?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ed?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
I cannot vote yes to begin to enter into any agreement. We have specialists who have told us this agreement is inappropriate, unprecedented. This is the beginning stages. No.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes,
6 in favor, 1 opposed, the motion carries, Your Honor.
thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Either